Path of Exile 2 got announced. It looked absolutely hype. It looked amazing. It had spears. I'm a big fan of spear weapons, okay? And then absolutely nothing. Just silence. And now we finally have an update.
Action RPG world rumbled when Grinding Gear Games announced Path of Exile 2 during the opening ceremony of ExileCon 2019. Mere weeks after Blizzard's showcase of Diablo 4, Chris Wilson and a few other top-level GGG employees walked on stage, announced Path of Exile 2, and actually played the in-development product in front of the crowd.
That's what was so crazy about it, is like, that's always what excites me about games, is whenever people, like, the way they want to show you the game is not by showing you some pre-rendered trailer.
Yep.
They're like, for example, the Nintendo one for the new Legend of Zelda. It's like it just had some guy that works at Nintendo. He's like, so yeah, so we're making this new game.
And it's
so
good.
I figure I'll just play it. You guys could look and see, like, kind of how it is.
It's insane, because the game literally looked almost finished. They had systems down, everything, and then just silence.
In the venue, Twitch chat, as you can see,
Yep.
even Reddit, were all floored at the incredible addition and reinvention.
Oh yeah,
this
people are very
huge
excited about
expansion
this.
would introduce
Obviously.
to one of the best ARPGs out there.
Yep.
2 campaigns, 1 overhauled game. Even Chris couldn't believe the reception. The rest of ExileCon 2019 went swimmingly. Various developers spoke about their unique philosophy and development process while working on Path of Exile. The best racers in the scene
Can you imagine this was literally 5 years ago? I can't stomach that even now.
competed to kill Act 5 Kitava first, and ExileCon 2019 ended. From November 2019 to April 2021, GGG remained silent on PoE2's progress, continuing to release consistent expansions to Path of Exile 1.
Yeah.
Suddenly, in April 2021, GGG spoke out with an update on Path of Exile 2 and showcased...
I don't really mind the silence about the game, because this is the way a lot of developers do things now. And I think it's actually a good way of doing things. It's like you see that with Blue Protocol. They
It
said, hey, we're
sometimes
making
works.
this game. All right, well, we'll be back in 2 years. 2 years go by. Hey, yeah, we fixed all the stuff, and there's a beta coming out. Game's coming out this year. All right, see ya.
That's some games. For some games that definitely works, but there are situations where it doesn't work. I can't name any examples off the top of my head. You probably can name some in the comments. But there have been games that was like hype, and it died down, and when it came out, no one remembered about it because the hype completely was just gone.
And then they come back, they're like, all right, so this is when it's coming out. And that was it. Rockstar does that well? Yes, exactly. Rockstar. And think about all of the companies that do that are the companies people like. You know, Blizzard used to do that, by the way. They used to never talk about their games, not give updates for their games for like a year, 2 years. And then they're like, hey, by the way, it's coming out.
Blizzard polish.
And like back in the day, that's the way that they did things. It was great. And yeah, they used to. And like From
it was
Software
great,
does that.
yeah.
Fucking Rockstar does that. And it looks like the Blue Protocol devs do this. GGG is doing that. And guess what the commonality between all of those developers are? People like them.
Well, not Blizzard anymore, though.
portions of the new campaign's second act, a desert area. Again, it looked fantastic. The updated
Yeah.
animations, the breathtaking terrain, 2 new weapons, the crossbow and the spear, boss health bars. The community
thank God.
loved it.
True.
However, all PoE2 information went dark once again after this showcase. We waited for an update, but none occurred. We continued to wait and wait
Dude, I love how
And
dramatic he's making this. This is amazing.
Yeah, it's like my life's on
Yeah,
the
and
line.
wait, and wait, and wait.
until in August 2022, GGG unveiled they'd be fully elaborating on Path of Exile 2 during ExileCon in 2023.
That's gonna.
They probably don't want to release it at the same time as Diablo 4, because Diablo 4 is looking good, okay? If Diablo 4 was looking like absolute dog water, they would definitely release it.
Gonna be next month, by the way, or 2 months from now, July.
Which would be held on July 29th and 30th in Auckland, New Zealand. Since then, we've heard absolutely nothing about Path of Exile 2. In fact,
That's right, because you don't need to. Don't ever tell people shit. Don't overshare. Because the thing is, inside of development, this is what happens, right? Is that inside of development, things change a lot. That's just how it is. So whenever you have a game and like you're constantly broadcasting your development process, people will inevitably get excited or upset about systems that they don't fully understand.
Yeah. Also, a very interesting fact is when you see some kind of beta thing that you can play, almost exclusively 100% of the time, that's an older version that's like 4 months old, and things have already changed from that. But that's the only way they can create something that people can play if a company wants people to play it early a little bit.
Yeah, don't rush the cooks.
Nothing truly new has been unveiled since the Act 2 showcase in April 2021, more than 2 years ago. So, what's the deal? For those who don't know Path of Exile's developers, Grinding Gear Games, also known as GGG, too well, you may think they're hiding something. Something negative. Likely, that's wrong. Instead, GGG is traveling a path untraveled by many game developers these days. They're working, waiting, and staying silent on the Path of Exile 2 product so they can...
Well, here's also the reality, is that Last Epoch is very well liked. It's not super popular. Last Epoch is not a massively popular
but it is very
popular game right now, but it is well liked. Other than that, though, Diablo 4 has, I would say, overwhelmingly positive reception. Many people are very positive about Diablo 4.
Most.
And because of how positive they are, PoE knows, Grinding Gear Games knows that they can't just bring something out and then have it be mediocre. Like, it has to look as good as Diablo 4 and be even more complex.
Focus on delivering and...
I don't know about the complex part. Again, people wanting, like, Diablo 4 to be in the middle between everything, I think that's a bad thing. The game just should be good. It doesn't matter if it's a competitor to PoE or not, it just should be good.
Surprising their audience. They have in the past. All the while, they've been dropping decent-sized expansions to Path of Exile 1. Since announcing Path of Exile 2, called the 4.0 expansion by some in the community, as it's going to be a massive addition and overhaul to the main game, GGG has introduced the following 13 expansions to Path of Exile.
And that's another thing they said, is that they were trying to develop PoE 2 side by side with Path of Exile 1.
Yeah.
It's not like and I remember Chris Wilson even saying this, that, you know, PoE 2 would have come out faster if they focused entirely on PoE 2, but they didn't want to do that because I think Path of Exile 2 is going to be like Overwatch 2, where it's going to be like a massive overhaul of the game.
They already stated that that's going to be true, by the way. And I'm completely up for it, because PoE is a great game, but it actually has done one of the worst things imaginable that you can do in games like this. And it's character animations. The characters look so absolutely disgustingly outdated and bad-looking most of the times. It is absolutely insane. Games literally sometimes just die because they don't have good-looking character and character animations, where it just feels too clunky and people get frustrated playing it. So, the fact that Path of Exile 1 was such a success, even though it's jank, clunk, and ugly, when it comes to characters, that's big.
But it's not going to be like a brand new game in the same way that Dark Souls 2 was a brand new game from Dark Souls 1.
Was it, though?
Mario 2 to Mario 1.
Okay, that's different.
Every single update also includes other minor but meaningful content, like balance changes, new unique items, new skill gems, engine improvements, divination cards, new models, updated graphics, and more. These are...
I mean, this is a great example of updated graphics that should have never been updated because no one cares.
Only the highlights. We begin. 3.9. Conquerors of the Atlas in December 2019 was the introduction.
This was a very, very good time. I remember this, dude. I played this so fucking much. Oh my god. I think I probably played this league more than any other league.
of a new endgame system involving Cirrus and the Conquerors of the Atlas.
Yep.
Multiple different crafting tools, and the Metamorph Build-A-Boss mechanic. It also introduced Awakened support gems and new bow skills. 3.10 Delirium in March 2020 added the Delirium mechanic.
I didn't play Delirium. I kind of wish I did.
Changed mapping
Delirium
forever
was okay.
and let us use cluster jewels on our passive skill tree to make our own passive skill trees.
I feel like cluster jewels are a bit much. Maybe they're okay.
I mean, true. If you're a new player, what's a cluster jewel? I don't know. No one knows if you're a new player.
I feel like they're a bit much.
3.11 Harvest in June
Horrible.
2020 gave us one of the most powerful and deterministic crafting systems in Path of Exile.
Yep, and they spent every patch after that nerfing it.
It was horrible,
Still
though.
exists in the game to this day.
If you like those grow mechanics, I'm sorry for you. I truly am.
Albeit in a nerfed state. 3.12 Heist in September 2020 rolled out a brand new chunk of endgame in the form of Heist.
Didn't even play it.
I didn't really like Heist. Personally, I think a lot of people didn't really like it. Personally, it's just like it's not my kind of gameplay.
It's some kind of timed BS. I don't know. I didn't play it, but I didn't like it from what I saw. And that one time I tried to actually do a map of Heist.
But for a lot of people, they do enjoy it. Good for them. And I think that's fine.
Allowing us to discover new forms of every single gem in the game, old and new. Loot brand new item bases.
It's actually a very good point. Yeah, the anomalous and like the other like alternate quality. I forgot what the other one was.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Those types of gems are really interesting and divergent. Yeah, there you go. Divergent and anomalous gems actually added so much gameplay.
And upgrade a host of rogues in an endless experience similar to delving and mapping.
Yeah.
3.13 Echoes of the Atlas in
Delve is just so superior.
January 2021 presented players with the Maven
this was Ritual, I think.
fight and the idea of capturing bosses, then fighting them all at once in a grand arena, the Maven's Crucible. Plus, it added the Atlas passive skill tree, allowing us exiles to customize our endgame experience to our liking.
Well, you also have to remember, like, the Atlas skill tree, all of that, they reworked a lot of the endgame systems. Like, I remember whenever they made the announcement for this this big patch, it was huge. Like, they reworked fucking, they reworked Bestiary, they reworked Incursion, they reworked fucking, like, every endgame system, and they completely changed a number of endgame systems, too. It was great.
It was great because it was literally necessary at that point, I would say.
I miss Atlas zones, yeah, like.
But it was good.
You used to have to like do things off of the Atlas and do certain maps on the Atlas and shit like that.
Yeah.
Unlike any other game out there. Plus, in-game Ritual, a new way to barter and earn items while killing monsters. 3.14 Ultimatum in April.
I love
Ritual was cool, yeah.
I'm gonna be totally honest.
Ritual was definitely
I fucking
cool.
loved Ultimatum. The only thing I didn't like about it is sometimes you couldn't see what was going on. Because it was like such a small space and you would just be killed by something you couldn't see.
Okay, hot take. You know what was the best league? A Talisman League, okay? I'm not even joking. Talisman League was the best league, but because at the time I was playing Summoner Witch. And that was one of the easiest way to get +1 maximum zombies.
Yeah, Ultimatum was fucking awesome though.
2021 surprised us with an amazing risk-reward mechanic overseen by the wickedly sly Trial Master, and added multiple new powerful gems to the game, like Reap, Exsanguinate, Petrified Blood, and Corrupting Fever.
I didn't like Exsanguinate that much.
In a variety of builds.
Yeah, a lot of people use Petrified
But
Blood.
it's really strong, though.
In July 2021 dropped in.
I've never done an expedition before.
Dude, I didn't even play this for some reason.
Narrative. A brand new content system called
or like
Expedition,
a logbook, I mean.
And heavily reworked numerous pieces
I've done
of
Expeditions,
character power. The changes are still controversial to this day. 3.16 Scourge in October 2021 summoned forth the Scourge faction and allowed us to clear our areas a second time. but the second run was in a literal hellscape.
Didn't
the
like
League
this.
also heightened the skill ceiling with new forms of uber content for Blight, Legion.
It wasn't bad, but I just didn't feel like playing. I think it was decent, but it just wasn't for me.
Breach and Delirium. 3.17 Siege of the Atlas in February 2022.
It's actually kind of crazy, like, whenever this guy lays it all out, how much shit has happened in PoE in the last 2 or 3 years.
It's actually amazing, true.
Yeah, it's nuts.
There's a lot of
another huge improvement to Path of Exile's mapping system and gave us 4 new pinnacle bosses. It also added Eldritch currency to the game, which let players of all types craft on their gear.
Yep.
Plus, it began the revamp of rare monsters with the introduction.
I think the best thing about Eldritch currency is the fact that it's so easy to use. So, like, it gets casual players. It's a very good way to get casual players into modifying their gear.
Yeah. This was my complaint about Path of Exile. If a new player comes into the game, they don't know that they're supposed to actually use fusings at times, you know? They don't really know, because they don't have no real expectancy in their mind. How can you get a 4-link? Does it actually drop? Is there a good chance? Should I go from a 2-link to... Is it worth it, you know? They don't really have these expectancies, and no one wants to waste currency on something that they may regret in literally 5 minutes.
Of Arch Nemesis. 3.18 Sentinel in May 2022 added new ways to buff monsters using Sentinels. Completely reworked rare monsters, as just
didn't like
before,
this too much.
Added 7 uber versions of boss.
I didn't like it. This league could have been absolutely amazing if they just made it that certain ones of those Sentinel things could be made to autocast. You know, if it if it periodically like targeted something, I think that's how you make that league better. But when you need it to... Dude, I remember so many times while I stopped because of this, by the way. You got the red one, you pop it, you kill a group of mobs, and then the timer is slowly ticking out, but you actually can't find another group of mobs to pop it. It was so bad because of that.
Bosses to the game, and let us play with Recombination, a new crafting system that smashed items together to create something new but familiar. 3.19 Lake of Calandra in August 2022.
I did play Lake of Calandra a pretty good amount. I didn't go super hard on it.
People didn't like Lake of Calandra. I actually really did. I think it wasn't too intrusive. I think it was pretty decent. Admittedly, the difficulty of using it sometimes was a little bit too much, you know, especially while leveling, but I liked it. But a lot of people did not like this one.
Introduced a new map building mechanic to the game, allowing us to enter the Lake of Calandra and make powerful rings and amulets.
Yeah, this one, I feel like this one didn't really get very well received.
Yeah.
It was an interesting idea, but it just didn't really hit the mark.
I don't even know, by the way, why I liked it. I just did.
It also further reworked rare monsters, completely changed.
Yeah, I think that the reason why people didn't like Lake of Calandra is actually not even because of the Lakes of Calandra, it's because of the Arch Nemesis change. People were really angry about that.
Changed the Beyond mechanic and replaced the old monsters with the Scourge, and rebalanced hundreds of unique items, swapped the value of Divine Orbs and Exalted Orbs, and changed around Harvest crafting.
I actually am glad that they changed Divine and Exalted Orbs, by the way, because I liked how... I like the idea of Exalt slamming a piece of gear. I actually think it's good.
2.0 The Forbidden Sanctum in December 2022 launched a roguelike dungeon into Path of Exile, added one of the first character power enhancing account-bound items into the game, further reworked rare monsters, and walked back on the term Arch Nemesis, massively buffed a set of endgame unique weapons, retooled jewels, ailments, and a few other systems, and added Ruthless, a new game mode for Path of Exile with extreme item scarcity and numerous reworked or removed mechanics. And finally, We've reached...
I will say that, like, Ruthless is... People can shit on Ruthless as much as they want, but one thing I can say about Ruthless is that the visibility in the game is better just because there's less going on. And I do think that is an improvement in that way.
Yeah. Ruthless is actually a good mode, because if you're playing PoE a lot, I mean like a lot, until the league ends pretty much, Ruthless gives you always interesting alternative to play the game if you're bored of what's currently happening. Because it is a completely different experience and no one can say otherwise.
Present. 3.21 Crucible in April 2023 added the Crucible weapon combining mechanic to the game, reworked 2 former large mechanics, Breach and Abyss, did a pass on passive skill tree masteries,
I like this one.
Completely changed up 2 ascendancies, the Pathfinder for the Ranger,
Yeah, a lot of people
and the
played that.
Saboteur for the Shadow.
That's what I played.
Those are the 13 major expansions to Path of Exile 1 since Path of Exile 2's announcement at the end of patch 3.8 Blight in November 2019.
I didn't play Blight.
Although GGG has been almost entirely silent about Path of Exile 2,
I
Look at
think
how
that the
good it
real
looks.
truth here is that they've been developing Path of Exile 2, and we've been playing it. I think that if you look at what we've gotten, and especially the last year or so with PoE, that's what we're going to get with Path of Exile 2.
Now that wouldn't be bad, but I hope that's not the case, because that means that Path of Exile 2 is going to have even more good stuff here, okay? So that's a very, very greedy hope.
They are transitioning the game to Path of Exile 2. It's not like they're going to make this new game and it's going to be totally different.
they cannot stop talking about and updating Path of Exile 1 because they are the same game, folks.
There you go.
Path of Exile 2 is a giant expansion to Path of Exile 1.
Yeah, it's Overwatch 2.
Both
but Overwatch 2 was bad.
campaigns will lead into the same endgame. All this work they're doing.
I don't like how you have to do you have to do the old campaign in order to get the ascendancies, the old ascendancies and stuff.
Oh god, that's
All
so
this
horrible.
Great content.
It's man, sometimes you just wish you can skip an ascendancy, but ascendancies are just such huge power boost you can't. And man, who likes waiting in the ascendancies for, you know, the floor to not be red? Oh, it's they should just remove the traps, okay? They should 100% remove all traps because it's just too annoying.
That they're adding and iterating on will likely be in Path of Exile 2 in some form. Us exiles will be able to slay the Maven as a werewolf. We'll be able to zoom through maps with a crossbow shouting about bolts.
I do think they should slow the game down a bit.
Yes.
I think there's just too many things happening in the game, and there's like too many different types of effects. Like, for example, do we really need bleed and corrupted blood? I personally don't think so. I think...
Is bleed chaos damage? It wasn't. I think it was physical damage, right?
just one of them is fine.
But I do agree in general that PoE is currently more of a zoomer game than honestly anything, because the end game, and well, even before the end game, is just go fast, and kill everything on the screen and bam. It's like you're playing Flicker Strike with everything, but you're not actually playing Flicker Strike, you know?
Yeah, just let's remove some of the abilities, make the ones that exist more punishing, meaningful, and easy to see. Get rid of some of the unnecessary stats, and then start over and build up from that. You don't understand the difference then? Oh, I understand it completely. I'm just saying that it's like there are a lot of instances. Like, for example, let's see. I think spell block and spell suppression should be combined. Like you should not need resistance, spell block, and spell suppression. Like this.
I think it's bad if you need spell suppression as a must to actually survive.
It's insane. You need 3 different stats to do the exact same thing, basically. That's 2 different things. Block is for using a shield.
You can also block spells.
1 reduces, 1 eliminates.
Yes. No, wait, was block a 100% reduction? Was it?
Uh,
I don't even know.
I think that it's a bit much. Like, then that's fine. Okay. Well,
I do like that, you know. The more stats you can tweak with, I'm honestly the more happy. But if you must have spell suppression as a must to survive, that I do not like. I do not like the idea of having something as a 100% must, so you do not die often.
let's say spell block is not the complete thing. Like spell suppression and resistances. I don't think that we need spell suppression. It's an unnecessary stat.
Yeah, that just means spells are too strong, technically.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's semantics. Who gives a shit? Circle jerking complexity. Yes. There are a lot of stats in PoE that I think if you took them out of the game and made the other existing stats more important, the game would just simply be better.
Arguable.
Like light radius should not be in the game. Nearby and close.
The only reason light radius is in the game is because of what was it, a ring or an amulet that added extra area of effect for things based on light radius?
Should not be in the game. The delineation between less and is it less and fewer, or decrease? Less and decreased and increased and more. This should not exist. It's stupid. Many don't play it because it's too complicated. Yes, and I think that I don't think that this makes PoE easier as a game.
Okay, I have said this a lot, but PoE is not a complicated game. The problem is, to play it, you need to read Wikipedia articles. You literally need to read a goddamn novella, so you understand what's actually happening and how to use the crafting systems and all of that jazz, okay? There's a reason there's an outside of game tool that actually shows you the real damage that you can do with an ability, because in-game just does a horrible job at showing you what to do, how it's actually calculated, and so on.
I just think it makes it better.
Like, what's additive damage? You know, you see something that says, plus 8 spell damage. Well, okay, I'm using spell damage. My gem says spell damage. And then there's plus 8 dot damage or something. Well, you think these things are the same? Well, actually, I don't think this is the right example. But you think these things are the same, but some reason one of them adds way more damage than the other. Because some of these effects, even though you think all of them are additive, some of them are multiplicative. And that's insane.
Like, you should not continuously just add more complexities into a game with no context as to, like, how is this complexity adding, how is this adding any value to the game?
Yep.
Is this making the game better, or is it just making it more complex? It's cluttering the experience. Yes, it's very cluttered.
Yep.
Like recovery and recoup rates. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, God, yeah.
We'll have boss bars for our favorite foes, from Cirrus to the Eater of Worlds. We'll progress through the core campaign, battling Merveil, Dominus, Kitava, and more with the updated gem system.
I'm looking so forward to the gem system because I don't actually like the current one.
So, why the silence on Path of Exile 2 from GGG? They'd rather show.
Silence.
It's a meme in the Path of Exile community to answer every problem, minor or massive, with the line, PoE 2 will fix it. GGG stated during their initial and second announcement that Path of Exile 2 will indeed solve some things. Problems with the skill gem system, poor animations, outdated graphics, outdated design, and numerous other areas.
Yeah, I will definitely say that the animations and everything in Diablo 4 are, like, infinitely better.
Yeah. Dude, honestly, this is a thing. There are people who tried PoE, and then they got their first skill gem, they didn't know how to socket it, and they left the game. Now, admittedly, that's very, very, very few people, but then there's a actually way larger group of people that some people don't even know exist. And those are the people who got their first gem, socketed it in, and they just thought it looks like ass. How it's being cast, how it's being used, how the animations look, and they couldn't stomach it and they left. That's actually a pretty decent chunk of people over the years.
Like, it just way, way, way fucking better. The game looks way better to play.
Game, but they've backed up those statements with evidence, with ideas. We know how they're seeking to improve their game, because when they're asked and choose to answer, their answers are concrete about Path of Exile 2, and frankly, about Path of Exile 1. They're adding and experimenting in Path of Exile 1 while developing and iterating Path of Exile 2. Otherwise, they're silent. They don't want to talk boldly about Path of Exile 2. They want to show us how they're going to make an amazing expansion and overhaul to Path of Exile. They take the "when it's ready" line very seriously when it comes to Path of Exile 2, and we're going to witness that firsthand on July 29th of this year.
Well, I certainly hope so. I mean, like, I think that it really depends on what happens. I will say, I think that a big issue in PoE, like, I saw a lot of posts about this league, is that people played the game and it was just simply too fast. There was too much going on.
Zoomer
and there were a lot of people that were like, yeah, I just don't want to play. It's too much.
Game. Also, when it's ready is a great idea. Well, a great way to do things. Unless you screw up the game. If the game comes out when it's ready and it's absolutely hated by everyone and the majority opinion is, wow, this is not worth it, then next time when it's ready is not gonna probably work that well.
Straight up. And I don't think that it's I don't think it's a situation where, like, oh, it's just boomers that are mad because they're bad at the game. I think it actually is too much. There's too much going on. It's too hard to figure out what's happening. There's too many buffs, too many debuffs. It's just too much. And I wish we could go back to, like, I don't know, like 2016, 2015, somewhere around there. I felt like the game was a lot more cohesive.
Yeah.
And it was easier to understand what's happening.
If you have played Path of Exile from its beginning, where Act 3 was the, end game, and there was not even a Dominus to kill, then, man, you know that the game has changed a lot. It is nothing like it was before, The pace of the game has not just gone like this up, it has gone like this up, and it's somewhere there in the stars, and it's piercing through everything. That's how much the game has become zoom.
I can confirm. I can find it super hard to understand. Yeah, it's hard to understand. Just get good? Well, people don't want to get good. Like, I remember, here's a good way to look at it, right? I remember whenever I would play PoE, my eyes would hurt. And this is before I started playing Wardloop, by the way. The reason why my eyes would hurt is that I was afraid to blink, because if I blinked, I could die. It's insane. Yeah, you blink, you die. Yeah, what the hell? And it's like there's like 50 other things that are happening. It's too much.
Yeah, because there was a pretty long time where the meta was, well, survivability doesn't exactly matter too much. It's either you kill everything on screen or it kills you. If you can't wipe the screen in a matter of, half a second, well, maybe you die. It is what it is.
In April 2021 and November 2019. When Chris Wilson walks out on stage at ExileCon 2023, he may be passionate, tearful even, but he will be confident in the game he's about to showcase to the world.
I think so.
As he was
True.
at ExileCon in 2019.
Absolutely.
He believes
Definitely.
in his team of developers. Grinding Gear Games is putting in the time and effort to ensure Path of Exile will outlast the competition, new and old. In the next few...
I think Path of Exile 2, like, if you are an ARPG Andy and you really care a lot about ARPGs, you will probably get more out of Path of Exile than you will out of Diablo 4. And you want to play it, you want this to be like your main game. This is the game that you play 8 hours a day for the better part of the season.
Ever.
Then I would absolutely say that PoE 2 would be that game. And Diablo 4 isn't trying to be that game. And I don't think that it should.
It should just be a
2
good
months
game.
leading up to ExileCon 2023 and the latest information on Path of Exile 2, I'm going to provide everyone with an in-depth, interesting history of Path of Exile and grinding gear games. This is merely a preface to that. I hope you'll join me these next few months for my PoE 1 flashback series and get seriously excited about the future of this incredible game. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe for more Path of Exile content, and check out my other videos. Tala Moana, fellow exile.
Oh, I remember that guy. They got rid of him.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
But he has one of the coolest animation skills in the game, though.
It is literally the campaign. I mean, like, I don't know, guys. Like, I'm really kind of curious to see what's going to happen, but I am very, very excited for Path of Exile 2. I will tell you this. I have been super fucking excited.
I mean, spears. What's not to love about spears if we're being real?